Okay, right now I'm in the memorial site to Miura Anjin and his Japanese wife, for he basically was a polygamist. He had a English wife also, son and daughter with the English wife and a son and daughter with the Japanese wife. I forgot to mention though that William Adams slash Miura Anjin was the character based on the Shogun TV series in the late 70s and the one today. So it inspired me to come find his memorial site here in Yokosuka. And technically Hemi, which is modern day Yokosuka for the most part, was his fief given to him by the first Tokugawa shogun, Ieyasu Tokugawa. So here we are. At the top, it was a hell of a climb to get up here too. There are several signs coming up here that state what this is all about, and so on and so forth. So I'm in the very historical landmark of William Adams slash Miura Anjin, the Miura Navigator. His son made this, and then it was restored in the 1960s. And then, well, the whole story is Miura Anjin was given this fief, and then his son inherited this fief. And then when the third Tokugawa shogun came along, he banned all foreigners to Japan. And that led to the isolation that lasted all the way into the Meiji Restoration in the from 1850, when Commodore Matthew Perry showed up, and then in the 70s the Meiji Restoration came along, and Japan was modernized so quickly. Matter of fact, from 1850 to 1905, Japan became a world power. They defeated the Russians in the Japanese-Russia War, which Russia was considered a world power at the time. They defeated not only the Pacific Fleet, but the Baltic Fleet, and took over Port Arthur from Russia. So here is Miura Anjin. When he arrived, he started this trip in Belgium with 5 ships and 500 men. Disaster after disaster followed his expedition, and he finally arrived in Miura, or Hemi at the time, with 24 sailors surviving in one ship. So he's definitely a survivor, but a very unlucky navigator. But with his influence, he helped Ieyasu maintain power, because Ieyasu came to power of his own volition, but he maintained power because the Hideyoshi Toyotomi clan was still in existence and still trying to fight him. And through Miura Anjin, or William Adams, he was able to stockpile modern weapons. And when the final siege of Osaka came in 16, 14, and 15, he was able to defeat the army easily and maintain the Tokugawa shogunate up until the Meiji Restoration, so 240, 250 years later, maybe 260. So yep, here we are. Miura Anjin's and his wife's memorial stones, because he's not buried here actually. There was a archaeological survey done in 1917 to find out if there was any remains here, inhumation or cremation, but they found nothing. In 1934 they were able to do the archaeological survey in his burial site in Nagasaki, and they found remains, and those remains were determined to be from a European male of an age of 55 to 65 years old, which Miura Anjin died in 1955, so it's pretty conclusive evidence, but not absolute evidence. The only way they would be able to solve that now would be to find a living relative and do a mitochondrial DNA test to find out if the remains in Nagasaki are absolutely 100% his, because eight other European males died in the same time frame, so they cannot 100% conclusively prove that Miura Anjin is buried in Nagasaki, but it's probably 85%, 90% that is him. All right, so we got a very old looking stone here. Goes way back, I would imagine, maybe back to the 1960s when it was erected, possibly, but it's very old looking. And there we are. Looks pretty damn old to me. And again, this is one of the signs. This sign tells of the stone monument, how it was dedicated to William Adams, and how it was restored in 1918, then in the 1960s again. And a lot of money was actually donated during the 1905, during the Russo-Japanese War, to make sure that this place stays good. And there's people down here right now cleaning it, making sure that it stays preserved. We're going down to the next sign, the larger one, also stating what they have done to maintain this area. So it's called Tsukuyama Park. There's rest areas, bathrooms, the whole thing. It's very nice actually, but it is a bit of a hike. It's very steep coming up this little hill. So here's the next one. Here's the sign, and again the same thing. Association in 1966, established to preserve Tsukuyama Park in memory of Miura Anjin. There's an annual ceremony held here in April. Might have to try to make that sometime before I leave here. All right, so we've seen the train station, we've seen the memorial. Now we're gonna head on to a park that overlooks the Yokosuka Naval Station, which you can just see through that gap in the trees, and the JMSCS naval ships which protect this area of Japan.